Back with a Felnscar example game here. I've come in a little late, but we've got all depleted sigils, so we're going to toss them back. And we're going to draw all depleted sigils again. We're going to start with the banner. Get that out there. This is one of the dangers of the Felnscar deck when you're playing 16 of these seats and banners. It sometimes happens that you do not draw the sigils that you need to in order to actually play your stuff on curve. But that's okay. The cards are powerful enough that even playing them a little bit behind curve isn't the worst in the world. We seem to be against some kind of Feln deck. Could be a Felnscar Mirror, could be a regular Feln deck. Control midrange. Feln Bloodcaster isn't played in the Felnscar list, so I'm going to go ahead and call this on some kind of Feln control deck. Just going to deploy a Midnight Gale here. We have two of them. They're pretty difficult for the regular Feln list to remove unless they're playing Lightning Strike or Permafrost. And we're not particularly aching for sigils. If they have their own. See, we drew a sigil in our own time. There is some thought to playing this Vera's Favor in order to make sure that we can deploy Champion of Cunning. But since we did draw the sigil, I think it's better to just play Permafrost and deploy out some of our threats. So if we happen to draw a sigil in order to play Champion of Cunning next turn, yeah, it'll be even better with more units in play. Our opponent attacking there is bold. We're not interested in blocking, mostly because I suspect either a Vera's Favor of his own or a Lightning Storm. Here we're going to attack. Here I want to attack in Vera's Favor his guy, but it doesn't make any sense with this Annihilate in hand. We can just kill his guy, move on, and keep getting in for damage. So Felnscar is a more aggressive mid-ranged deck. We have these Champion of Cunnings that are going to be fantastic next turn, smash in for 5 plus whatever these guys have. So we want to keep him on the defensive with his Feln list. Otherwise, he'd eventually go over the top of us with champions of his own and scouting parties and potentially Vera's and things. There's that Lightning Storm. And the Vera's Favor. Alright, so he had both of the things that I was worried about. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to serve him here unless he has all these and a Lightning Strike, which he does not. So, there you go. There's your first example match. I'll throw us right into a second one so that you guys can see a little bit more how to play Felnscar. I'm going to keep this all in one video for once just because, uploading so many videos separately is difficult for you guys to watch, but hopefully you enjoyed the stock talk that this is attached to, showing off the power of the Felnscar deck in a ranked ladder environment. We've only got a single sigil in this hand, so we're going to toss it back. And we're going to draw an interesting hand here. We've got all these. Well, we've got some early removal. Xenon Banner basically guarantees that he's on Pepper's Xenon serial killers list, which means these Vera's Favors are going to get a lot of work. Ordinarily, this is a card I want to ignore. Excuse me a moment. However, in this particular deck, Friendly Wisp can pick up a Beast Caller's Amulet and get in on turn 3 and activate itself, so it becomes an immediate threat. Since I don't want to be holding up Annihilate, I want to be deploying, I'm going to use a Vera's Favor to kill it immediately. If this was, for example, an Elysian list, I might be tempted to ignore it and just play out a Feln Stranger. Yeah, I'm just going to play Midnight Gale. It uses our power better, helps us curve out. we are going to be able to play champion on 5 after Felnscar and Vera's favor next turn. So we'll be in pretty good condition. If he plays something like an Impending Doom here, that messes us up a bit, but I don't anticipate that'll be the case. Dark Return for Friendly Wisp? That's not very friendly at all. We have a Permafrost. And we have this Shadow Sigil. So we definitely want to play the Vera's favor. Well, if we play the Vera's favor, we want to also play the Felnscar. So the question is, how scared are we of him drawing cards? And I think the answer is not enough to play the Annihilate on that. We can just play the Annihilate on whatever he plays to enable it, be it, maybe he plays Beastcaller's Amulet, maybe he plays an Impending Doom. We can kill all of those. So I think it's more important to ensure that we get to start playing our Champions of Cunning. Otherwise, we're delayed by a full 2 turns. I use the Vera's favor on the Dawnwalker just to reduce the damage that we take. We're not so beat down that we need to hit him with every point of damage we can at this point. Yeah, okay, Sandstorm Titan. See, Annihilate takes care of that too. The question becomes, if he attacks, do we block? And the answer is he should have attacked beforehand. Okay. So, in this situation, our champions are online, but we can't really attack through his board. However, we've got 3 of these, so I'm just going to take the slower route, deploy a whole bunch of them, and we'll go for the Annihilate on the kill turn. Obviously, he could have a whole bunch of removal that throws a wrench in our plans. There's a Beastcaller's Amulet. So I could just take this damage. And if he's just attacking with a Sandstorm Titan, I will. Yeah, that Dawnwalker doesn't do... Okay, make up your mind. Dawnwalker doesn't do anything. Just does 1 damage to you and clears the board. So now that we have 2 Annihilates, the time is definitely here in order to annihilate the Sandstorm Titan and get in there. The question is, do we want to... yeah, okay, we're just going to go full bore. We've got 3 removal spells. We've got 2 charge units in hand. I was considering moderation for a later threat, but we're just throwing everything in there and attacking him down. I don't think there's anything that he can play that's going to be able to stop him from these 2 charging champions in our hand. So the key thing to keep in mind when playing the Felnscar deck is there's a careful balance of aggression and control. You're playing a mid-range deck, but you're more of an aggressive guy. As I've stated over and over with these champions, you can end the game from essentially anywhere. But you need to be in a position in order to do that. So you need to play your removal aggressively to keep your opponent on the back foot and be able to push forward. So even though he's played these cards, we can just deploy the extra Champion of Cunning and he's out of blockers. So we'll be able to take this game, but only due to using all of our power as effectively as possible. If we had played Annihilate on an earlier turn rather than just deploying the Champion of Cunning, we wouldn't have had that Champion of Cunning in play in order to take advantage of the opportunity that was presented when we then drew the second Annihilate. His attack with the Dawnwalker was not particularly beneficial to him as it took a blocker off the table and was just sort of a chump attack. It might have done something if I was committed to the double block on the Sandstorm Titan. However, by deploying the Argenport Instigator plus the Beastcaller's Amulet, which would have triggered if Argenport Instigator had hit me after one of my units dying, I was no longer interested in trading with the Sandstorm Titan. Even if I didn't have the Annihilate in hand, I would have just taken the damage and been able to boost myself up with another champion on the next turn. So I think that was the turning point in the game. His attack was slightly suboptimal, and then I had a very powerful turn with 3 removal spells in order to force him low enough that my final charge champion was able to take him out. So that has been the Felnscar gameplay. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video, and hopefully you've listened to the stock talk by now. Felnscar is a very fun deck, and it's one that's sort of modular. You can move around a lot of the removal pieces, the spells. The creatures are the units are pretty core, but they're also very powerful. So the deck, as you've seen, wins, turn 4, 5, or turn 5 or 6 off of a overwhelming board state backed up with a few removal spells. So if that's the sort of game plan that you like to play with, I'd heavily advise you to check out this deck. This has been aReNGee, and I hope you've enjoyed the video.